Hello and welcome to the Churros y Tácticas Podcast. It is September 9th. It is international break. What are we going to talk about? I have no idea. Oh, why don't we have a debate about the best midfielder in the world? Coming right up. Raw churros. What's up, everybody? Shout out to all the dedicated Churros y Tácticas podcast listeners. This is your weekly free dose of a Culé and a Madridista just arguing for 45 minutes to an hour. And first thing is first, please make sure to like and subscribe right now if you're on YouTube. You can also see that this is being co-streamed by Diego Lorijn, D-Spot. Please go over to D-Spot and also subscribe to Diego's channel. Diego, welcome, man. How you doing? What's going on?
All good, my friend. All good, all good. Ready for the Spanish football, La Liga, football in general, really club football that is, to kick off once again. I got to say, though, I have hugely enjoyed this international break with a big focus, naturally, on Spain. That Bulgaria-Spain was kind of played out as you would have expected. The big eyes were, of course, set on the game that took place on Sunday over in Turkey against, Turkey-Spain. That was another World Club qualifier. It was supposed to be a game in hell, as often these games in Turkey are being, let's say, advertised or pitched by the newspapers. We all know of the fantastic atmosphere, the hellish-like atmosphere that the games are lived with, and the ambience there is second to none, really. But all that talk was fizzled out real quick, thanks to the likes of Pedri and company. Merino, of course, with a hat trick, as well as Luis de la Fuente's side. Look to me, Kiyan, still like that team to beat. Hopefully, this next World Cup, I should say, will live up to the expectations and deliver us a clash of titans between Spain and Argentina. That is naturally what I am hoping for. And hopefully a second World Cup for my beloved Spain as well. But that is neither here nor there. There's, of course, the Finalissima as well. I'm kind of just glancing over that. We will be able to get to see a preview of what a Argentina-Spain would potentially look like. But I don't know, Kiyan. Like I said, it was such an emphatic, I would nearly say, historic performance by Spain. I thought that Turkey had more in the tank, really, to put up a match. Even though in the beginning, in opening minutes, they did test Unai Simon. It was quick. It quickly became apparent, I should say, that Spain is just head and heels over the competition that they're facing so far. And a lot of credit to that, I think, goes to Luis de la Fuente, and a lot of credit goes to the players as well, because with the rotations, with different players that maybe are not, your usual household names, Mikel Merino, like I said, slotting in a hat trick, all the while being led by a fantastic Pedri, Lamine Yamal, and well, I should say, the base still being Barca players, Hausen in the back as well. Very clean, this Spain right now, to me, Kiyan, I'm proud and I'm excited for what is to come. But I would imagine that you were hoping for more of a matchup, because I'm going out on a limb here once again, and I think that your heart was swaying more towards the Turks on this one.
No, not really. I mean,
No?
No. I mean, I told you, I think after the Bulgaria game, that these Spain games, Spain are just so much better than everybody else right now that it's kind of boring to watch them play. They're just like they're just comfortably, hands down, the best national team I've seen in the past year. And I think Argentina is the other one that we talk about. I think Argentina have dropped off a little bit since the World Cup. I don't know if they're at the same level they were during that tournament. Mind you, I'm sure FIFA will do their best to try to get Argentina to the final and win it again. But I don't think there's a team, unless France France have been looking a little bit better, I would say. Like, I think France are going to be better than the version that showed up at the Euros. I think they're going to be a team. I mean, England, I think, is unknown, like they always are, supremely talented. Coaching is a little bit wonky. I don't know if Tuchel can figure it out, but I think Spain are comfortably not only the best, but also they're so deep, man. They're so deep. They're so deep.
And to think that this game, sorry, go on.
I was a little bit confused about, you said what did you say? You said this
the nucleus being
who? There's two players, right?
Well, there's Lamine Yamal and Pedri that are head and heels, of course, the best players of this squad. But I would add to that equation a Ferran Torres that that continues to deliver, and Dani Olmo as well, that doesn't shy away from the occasion when he gets the minutes. Not adding to that the fact that so far Luis de la Fuente isn't counting on Pau Cubarsí or Alejandro Balde, which I would imagine at some point he will, as well as, of course, Joan Garcia, who so far isn't getting a sniff because Unai Simon in goal is solid. I mean, no team is really giving them much of a test, but we know that he is the goalkeeper to come for the Spanish national side. And that's no laughing matter.
It is, because it's just such a classic Barca move to just claim random things. Like, oh yeah, but this guy's not in the squad. Like, you want me to do that when Carvajal comes back and obviously takes that right wing to a different level? The best left back in Spain right now, Alvaro Carreras, who is bound to break through. I'm just like not claiming these random things. it's just so.
You just did. You just claimed Carreras the best left back for Spain.
I'm not like claiming that the nucleus is now all of a sudden this Real Madrid base. It feels so forced when you push these things.
Well, it's factual, dude. Who are the best two players?
There are two players, Barca players, in the Spanish 11, starting 11. Two.
I don't think so.
You wanted me to name them? Spain versus Turkey? 2. Lamine Yamal and Pedri. Two of them.
I think that once everybody is healthy and Luis de la Fuente comes to his senses, he will add Pau Cubarsí in that starting 11. I don't see why he wouldn't add an Alejandro Balde to that starting 11. Sure, you could say that it's a far-fetched thing for me to shoehorn Joan Garcia, but he is this future of the Spanish. The man.
Okay, but that's a different.
No. Oh, sure,
5 years from now, there's going to be players we don't even know exist yet.
I get it, but for you to say that Dani Carvajal will have the right back position on lock, I would agree with that. I don't think that's a stretch at all. But what's funny to me is that you guys take issue with the fact that I think it's quite simple, a simple claim to say that the nucleus of this Spain team continues to be
two players,
a Barca heartbeat. I mean.
You're going to add Cubarsí, that's 3. I'm going to add Carvajal and Carreras. Now we each have 3 in the starting 11. Bam. You know what? I'm going to claim Nico Williams. I'm claiming Nico Williams because he is a Madridista. He rejected Barca. Yes, he's one of us too. 4. We have 4.
I will let you claim Nico all you want, in all honesty. Nico Williams, by the way, I don't know how long he'll be out for, but having an underwhelming season. I'm hoping that Barca dodged the bullet, as my instinct sort of told me when that decision dropped. Not that I wish the man, any bad luck whatsoever, obviously, but didn't. He had one shot on goal early on as well in the first half that could have led to Spain's opening goal. But other than that, it's been underwhelming for Nico Williams so far. But that being said, what stood out to me is that you called it boring. Again, that's kind of a sign to me that something is not really niggling, or something is not really, feeling right in the Sobhani camp. Why I can't imagine Kiyan calling this boring if these players were wearing white shirts. What makes it boring for you, my friend?
No, I just boring in the sense that they're just so much better. Lopsided contests generally, from a neutral standpoint, are not that exciting to watch.
Yeah,
I much prefer watching Barca play because those games are fun. Like they're like both teams. There's going to be goals for both teams. I just feel like Spain are just so much better than everybody else right now. That
But there was intensity, there were shots on goal, shots on target.
yeah, I actually didn't watch Spain Turkey just for what it's worth. I wasn't even home, so
Oh,
I'm sure it was exciting. I saw the highlights, but
okay. I was
I'm
going to ask
referring
you
to Spain
because
Bulgaria.
I know that you watched Turkey quite a bit, like
Yeah.
from what, and I haven't. So I was going to ask you, from based on what you have seen from them, did you expect more of a matchup, especially given that this was on home turf?
Turkey are a team that go for things. Their defense is not good. They like to attack. They push. And and the only reason I didn't watch this game is not because I didn't want to, but because I literally couldn't. I had a prior engagement that I had to attend. But um, they're just the reason why I enjoy watching Turkey is because they don't really care about defense and they like to attack,
Hmm.
and they have fun players. And you think back to that. I think it was Georgia. They were up 3-0 and nearly blew it. They
Yeah.
got a red card. They
So
conceded 2 goals, and Kavara nearly scored at the end to make it 3-3. So Turkey are what they are. A team I enjoy watching because they go for it and they try to play. Um, and I mean, I think they were pretty impressive in the Euros, in part because I really knew nothing about them at that time. So I think they impressed a lot of people. They put themselves on the map a little bit. But in terms of pure firepower and talent, like they're not going to be able to go toe to toe with a team that's as well drilled as Spain are.
well, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, you're right about the fact that Turkey are a gung ho like team, and that certainly plays into the hands of Spain, that are ruthless and lethal against other teams that allow them the space and the time to be on the ball. But um, do you think that when facing more sturdy, so yeah, I guess my question is, when looking at this Spain, the dominance that we've seen so far in these World Cup qualifiers, it's early days, yes, but I think we all agree that they're candidates up there with the best one or two national sides.
Yeah.
What resistance, like what would be their potential Achilles heel? Is it a team that just simply opts for anti-football, for lack of a better word, closes
No.
themselves off?
No, I mean,
What do you
I don't
think
think
could
so.
stop,
I don't think it's the
like
anti-football teams.
Morocco?
No, I don't think it's the anti-football teams. I think this was a pure negligence on our part, but we failed to mention Portugal, who um, gave us a great blueprint in that Nations League final. Like, this
Right.
is not an anti-football team. They had
Yes.
the Lamine stopper. They had the midfield genius in Vitinha, and they have
Mm.
the greatest goal scorer the sport has ever seen in Cristiano, even at this age. They're going to be up there with the Frances, the Argentinas, the Spains, I think, in the tournament as well. But I think Spain's kryptonite will be just teams who are press resistant and have pace in transition on the wings. That's France. That's Portugal. That's Argentina. Tactically well
England.
drilled teams. England in theory only. I don't know if it's actually in practice. Yeah.
So I haven't seen England. You were very
I haven't seen them on their Tuchel
excited
either.
about Tuchel taking over. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen them. I mean, I will only watch England if Jude and Trent are there. But Trent didn't get called up, and Jude is obviously injured, so I didn't bother to watch.
Trent didn't get a call up.
No, Trent didn't get called up. No, Trent. I forget what the explanation from Tuchel was. Something about trying or experimenting new things. I don't know what he said. Yeah, worked out. We had a lot of people stay back this international break, and it's been great. Like, none of the Brazilian players, none of the English players. Pretty
Is this
happy with this.
what's going on with Trent? I mean, now with Carvajal as well back, he's kind of cemented his place back in the starting 11. Is Trent
Who?
Carvajal? Is
No,
Trent
Trent's
kind
been
of?
starting the last couple games.
But you don't
Carvajal.
expect Carvajal to take over?
I think
Healthy?
they'll rotate. I mean, I think at this stage I think we just have. I mean, it's an incredible luxurious situation to be in, to have Trent and Carvajal figure that out. But I mean, Trent started the last game and he was incredible. I think he's slowly getting back to his best, and I think they'll both rotate. You have to remember that the wing back position with Xabi Alonso was extremely demanding.
Mm.
So I think there's just going to be a lot of rotation. Who starts in like the big game when everyone's healthy? I mean, that's a question I don't really have an answer for right now. You might go with Carvajal because of the defense, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't think there's anything going on with Trent, but I just think that um, as he was, just kind of acclimatizing himself and getting it back to match fitness, I think Tuchel just wanted to try something new. I think he'll be back probably next international break is my guess.
We'll see. Well, I was expecting, like I said, more out of this match. I was very excited to see sort of the matchup between Yamal Pedri against obviously Guller and Yildiz as well, and was underwhelmed from what I was seeing. I have one of my close friends is Turkish, and was sending over a few text messages at some point to her saying, listen, how's the household holding up? Because they're very fanatic when it comes to supporting obviously Turkey, as a lot of Turks are. And she kind of somewhat laughed it off, but also said, you know what, maybe we're an overhyped team. I don't know how you feel about
No,
that. I
they
think
don't. They don't have.
traditionally-
They're just not deep enough, man. They don't
right.
have enough talent in that team.
Mm,
Like if you compare them to, uh, you know, Georgia, yeah,
right.
they're gonna play.
Mm,
They're gonna win those games. You compare them to Spain, they don't have they don't have enough in that team. They don't.
mm,
And what you know, you can't really expect much from Goulet either. I mean, what are you gonna do with that surrounding cast? You know, it's not it's not an easy. They're just Turkey are gonna qualify for the World Cup. They're gonna come second in this group, which is where they're supposed to rank on paper in this group, and that's the extent of how good they are. Like you just like I don't know. I don't know what that overhyping thing means. I don't know. Maybe Turkish people will overhype it. I don't know. If you anyone with a discerning eye can look at the talent level of that team and just have a very realistic, reasonable take, which is they have some really fun, talented players, but they just do not have enough elite talent to go toe to toe with the big national teams, and they have to be accepting of that reality.
mm. I guess overhyped also because there was some trash talking between me and her before the game, and like I mentioned as well, the headlines in the newspapers coming from the players, the local press, they did their part when it comes to kind of instilling some sort of fear
Sure.
factor, like we always have when
Yeah.
when teams come and visit Turkish territory. So it kind of and I know that the atmosphere. I've never lived it personally, but from when I see in previous games, it can be intimidating, and it just really wasn't at all. I mean, Spain, we took out that element and that advantage that they have so quickly that I felt like 6-0 was a short scoreline in the end. Lamine
Mm.
Yamal had 3 good chances, didn't manage to put any into the back of the net, but we could have seen a far more lopsided scoreline in the end. And I mean, I mentioned Guler and Yildiz. Obviously, they're the younger ones, but even a Cholanolu, a far more experienced player, just didn't. Nobody really for me showed up on the evening, and I was quite astonished by that. Left feeling myself, I suppose, thinking like, shit, man, like this after the Nations League disappointment against a very good Portugal side. I was like, look, this is, although it's a qualifier and don't want to make too much of it, I can't see a team right now that is better than Spain. They could be equal, and they could definitely, you mentioned in Portugal, obviously Argentina that we mentioned as well, but I don't see a team that really is better, certainly not head over heels better than La Roja at the moment.
When was the last time Spain played an elite team? Portugal, I guess.
Portugal, yeah, yeah,
Okay. They
yeah,
lost that one. Before
yeah.
that, France in the Nations League semifinal,
That
they
was a
won
great game.
5-4. I
That
forgot
was a
about
great
that
game.
crazy game.
Yeah,
Then they beat the Netherlands on a penalty shootout, right?
yeah.
In the Nations League quarterfinals. They squeaked by Switzerland 3-2. They squeaked by Denmark 2-1. Um, the test is not is I mean England they squeaked by 2-1. and this is going all the way back to the Euros, uh, squeaked by a really, really poor version of France. They needed the handball to beat Germany. I'm just saying, like,
You're being very harsh here, but okay. I'm
no,
letting
I
these
mean,
slide. This
you
week's slides.
this is coming from someone who thinks that Spain are probably the best national team in the world right now, but these are not the games that they get measured in. It's not the turkeys. It's these
Yeah.
it's the bigger elite teams who know what they're doing, like the
Hmm.
Portugals. That's
Hmm.
that's the test they have to pass.
Mm, mm, mm. For sure, for sure. And again, I think since they're being led by two of the at least three best football players in the world right now, the stage is set for an emphatic World Cup. And on that note, Kiyan, let's set the spotlight here. Lamine Yamal had a great game, great dribbles, didn't manage to score, but was escandaloso when it came to showing off his talent. However, Pedri with 2 goals, 3 key passes, an absolute recital, an emphatic as well performance from him, made him once again the focal point of debates everywhere. And that is what we're going to be discussing in this next segment as well on Churros, namely the fact that he is the best midfielder in the world. He ended up with a rating of 10 out of 10. And like I said, Kiyan, you said, what should we discuss? And I was like, I think it is about time that once again we revisit this. Perhaps advantageous, perhaps not. But I'm sticking to my guns here and saying that, of course, Pedri has been and continues to be the best midfielder. And I'll go even a step further. I would say one of the best football players in the world at the moment.
Okay, so let's dig into it. I think, and as you mentioned, I said, "Hey Diego, I need to tell my thumbnail guy to make a thumbnail for this." Was yesterday. I said, "What do we do? Like, I don't what are we talking about here?" And you said, "Let's talk about the best midfield in the world." I was like, "Okay, that's a good one." Certainly enough clickbait in itself in that one line. Who was the best midfielder in the world? You slap a picture of Jude Bellingham, you slap a picture of Pedri, and others who I thought were in the short list, which contains Vitinha, Chouameni right now, who is playing at an unbelievable level, Fede Valverde, who was always in that discussion. So we slapped 5 players on that thumbnail. I think I was like, great, this is good.
Not at all Madrid heavy, of course.
Well, who did I exclude?
From Barca,
Gavi?
Frenkie de Jong, Rodri. Frenkie de Jong, bro.
Rodri is a shout, but I mean, Rodri, we have to see him come back, like for a longer sample size.
If you're not calling Frenkie de Jong one of the best, then you're putting Chouameni.
We'll shortlist him. We'll shortlist him. I like Frenkie, you know that. And I think we have to come up with some rules of engagement.
Okay.
What are we discussing? Are we talking about current form? Because if we're doing it based on current form, that's pretty unfair to Jude Bellingham, who is not even playing football right now. So he has no form to begin with. Are we doing it based on the past 2 years, 3 years? Are we doing it based on future projection? What is the parameter? Like, what are we? So like we can agree. There's probably common ground, I assume, heading into the discussion. We both agree, because to me it'll debate, like, for being honest, and I think Vitinha has a shout, by the way. But I think for argument's sake, what people are expecting here is Pedri versus Jude. We both agree that those two are great players, right?
Mm-hmm.
We both agree. I think the other important thing is to establish common ground is, do we both agree that Jude Bellingham is a midfielder? Because I think we do agree that they're different kinds of players, right? They're not exactly like for like players.
No, but both midfielders, correct? Yeah,
they're both midfielders. Because I think there is a bit of a misconception that Jude is like an attacking. Well, it's not that he's not an attacking midfielder, but that he is not a midfielder is, like, I think the debate that sometimes people get into. And I think the reason that they fall into that trap is because at the beginning of his first season, when Real Madrid sold Benzema, didn't sign a replacement, Jude Bellingham was played as this kind of pseudo false nine / attacking midfielder / like the guy who was also flying back in midfield and putting the team on his back and scoring goal after goal and game winners. And so I think a lot of people start to categorize him like, oh, he's not a midfielder. He's a goal scorer, which of course is just something that he can do, but it's not the focal point of his abilities. Because if you watch him at Borussia Dortmund, he was an 8. Sometimes he played in the double pivot. Sometimes he played as an 8. And because he can also do that goal scoring shtick, doesn't mean he's not a midfielder anymore. So I think with that, all that being said, I'd like to hear your case as to why Pedri is a better midfielder than Jude Bellingham.
So based on, let's say, the parameters that you just laid out, I guess the focal point for me would be, in particular, last season, the 24-25 season, given that naturally we saw Pedri at his best. He was healthy. He dictated or led Spain, Barca rather, to a very successful season. And when you look at his statistics only, so you look at the 24-25 season, Liga, Champions League, and internationals as well, where Pedri boasts 59 appearances. He scored goals, he had assists, 6 and 8, but it really comes down to all of the other statistics, still tangible, and I'm talking like pass accuracy, I'm talking key passes per game, and there's a long list here that Pedri stands out head over heels above the competition. Most touches, most passes, most expected assists, progressive actions, progressive carries, successful dribbles, successful attacking actions, deep completions, forward passes, progressive passes completed, passes into the penalty box, attempted and completed passes, short passes completed, long passes completed, through ball passes completed, and most passes into the final third completed. He stands, as I said, in the number 1 spot. And that really is where words meet reality. But it doesn't stop there neither, Kiyan. You look at short creating actions. You look at goal creating actions. He's outpacing Bellingham in those categories as well as Vitinha for that matter. Pedri, when it comes to his XG in terms of non-penalty XG per 90 minutes, is 0.45, where Bellingham has a 0.05 more than him. However, Vitinha ranks lower than Pedri, once again proving his sort of, I think all of these stats, his overall superiority and his impact on the game as well. And, I have such a massive list here of stats where I was comparing Bellingham. I added Vitinha in the mix as well, because as you rightfully mentioned, we'd be doing him dirty not to at least mention his name. But seeing as we're heavily focused on Barca and Madrid, it's Pedri leads in all of these categories. And you talk about the footballing IQ. I get that people are hugely impressed by Bellingham's stature, by his physicality, by his speed, by his strength, but it's not, that's not what meets the eye. There is much more when you look at the footballing IQ, the way that Pedri is able to evade the press, the way that he is the heartbeat of every single team that he plays on. And I insist, the Spanish national side as well as Barca are hugely influenced by the way that Pedri dictates the game. If he is on the field or not, there is one team and then there's another team. And it's true that, of course, the physicality is not there when comparing it to a Bellingham. However, it's almost like, and we've seen this before, you look at a Xavi, you look at an Iniesta, Pedri almost combines the best of those two worlds, meaning, yes, he doesn't have that physical presence, but he is able to maneuver in such tight spaces while regaining control of the ball in moments where, even in transition, he doesn't lose it. He'll pass off the ball, move forward, progress with the rest of the team, receive the ball back, either have a shot on goal himself or unselfishly set up a teammate for a shot on goal. And finally, and like I said, I don't want to go. I could go on an entire monologue and a rant here. If people say, well, he doesn't have the defensive sacrifice and abilities of a Bellingham, right now, Pedri stands head over heels as well over any other midfielder in the 5 big European leagues, and when it comes to recuperating possessions with 227, where Caicedo is at 192, the second on that list. And Bellingham doesn't crack the top 10. Now, of course, he's missed the first half of the start of the season so far. But
Bellingham is not playing.
Yeah, exactly. But this notion, the notion that Pedri is not a defensive player, that he doesn't have any defensive presence, the stats again beg to differ. He ranks number one in so many categories that I feel like he's being grossly overlooked by a vast majority of people that, again, put Bellingham ahead of him because they are swooned by the physicality, the speed, the strength. I will give it that he is bigger, faster, stronger, but that doesn't make him a better player or a better midfielder in this case.
Okay. Jude can do every single one of those things that you mentioned Pedri can do. Plus, he's a better goal scorer. Plus, he's better defensively.
But he's not better in statistically, my friend.
What stats you want to go to? Goals, assists? Bellingham ranks higher in both of those.
All the stats that I just mentioned.
You mentioned things like successful take-ons. Bellingham is 1.68 per 90 successful take-ons. Pedri 1.22. Assists per 90. Pedri 0.16. Bellingham 0.28. Obviously, the goals, we're not even going to get into that. You're talking about press evasion. That's literally Jude Bellingham's bread and butter. Yeah, he is faster, stronger, all that stuff. But he also gets punished because he's physically strong and he's a great goal scorer, and people can't realize that also he controls games. And I'm sorry to say it, but if he was short, white, and unathletic, we'd call him a controller. The guy is the closest thing we've seen to Zinedine Zidane stylistically since the man himself. So I'm just, again, super excited for Jude to come back from his shoulder surgery, just to, not you specifically, but just to shut a lot of people up and just remind people who the fuck he is. I think what happened last season is that Pedri was, you're talking about Barca Real Madrid games, or Barcelona dominated those games, right? And Pedri obviously was a huge part of it. And a lot of that, I think, came down to the tactical setup of both teams. Obviously, if you rewind 2 years ago, Bellingham was the guy who was dominating Barca in his first season. Last season, due to many factors, mostly tactics, mostly the positioning of both teams. And now I think you're coming back to the situation where he's coming back from a shoulder surgery where the shoulder strap severely affected his mobility. Players were tugging on it. He's going to come back with a fixed shoulder, with a clearly defined role where he doesn't have to do everything, because Xabi Alonso has a different role for him in midfield. And I think he's going to remind people real quick. But in terms of scoring, in terms of assisting, his defensive work rate, you're talking about press evasion and dribbling. He's been top of the big 5 leagues pretty much in all those categories since he was with Dortmund, and even now he's in the 98th percentile of successful take-ons. Touches, but I give you the touches. Pedri has a lot of touches. Jude is
Pedri leads. We're talking about who's better. Pedri leads successful take-ons under pressure in La Liga. He's showing that he's press resistant in his dribbles.
Again, Jude is not playing right now. Like, you can't. That's why I'm looking at per 90 in the past year. We have to look at a sample size of an entire year. Jude is higher in Pedri when it comes to successful take-ons. I gave you the number. Pedri 1.22 per 90. Jude Bellingham 1.68 per 90. Even touches. Pedri, I'm not gonna. This is the problem with stats. Pedri right now has the most touches in La Liga. Dean Howson is the guy who is right behind him. These two are right now the focal points of possession. But that's also because Jude is not playing. If you go back to the past year, touches per 90, Pedri 1.35, Jude 3.64. So he is actually much more of a fulcrum within his system than Pedri is, believe it or not.
I think our stats are clashing.
I was not worried about this debate at all, and there was a reason for it. And I cannot wait for Jude Bellingham to come back. Cannot wait.
Well, I appreciate you not being worried. You have trust in your player as much as I wasn't worried, because I've not only trusted my player, but my stats here are backing up the argument that Pedri's leading all of the categories that I was just mentioning. So I think our stats are clashing here.
Yes, but again, you're looking at the stats right now.
Not just from this season. I'm talking last season as well. That's how I started this.
I'm just to be clear, just to be transparent, I can put them in the chat. I'm looking at Football Reference. They do the past 365 days and they sort it per 90, and you can look at it. I also think it's also important to point out that Pedri, and this is not his fault, and this is not it's not a knock on Pedri, because again, just to go back what I said at the beginning of the podcast, I think Pedri is a great player. There's no denying that. Eye test stats, it backs it up. He's great. You're looking at a system that really, really complimented him last year with Flick, and a system under Ancelotti where it was just chaos and he had to do everything by himself, basically, in midfield. And it's just not like that anymore. So I think part of the trouble with having this discussion now is that, like, you know, there's going to be recency bias involved over the past because of what happened the last few months. But I do remember at the beginning of the 2023-2024 season, after like a month in,
where Bellingham had a ridiculous goal-scoring season that was, I mean, kind of like uncharacteristically good. Even I mean, nobody expected him to be such a force. And
you came to this podcast. It's on record, and you said, "I think he's the best player in the world right now." So it's just really hard to, you know, because depending on when we have this conversation in the football timeline, there are just going to be different factors, and that's why it's hard to have this conversation based on like current form. I think this conversation and debate would be much more suited like at the end of the season, maybe even at the end of the World Cup. We see Jude Bellingham back in action post-surgery. We see how Real Madrid does by the end of the year. We see how Barca does. And I think sometimes, like I know my conscience is clear who I would take between the two. It's obviously Bellingham. But I do think we can also respect all these guys and put them at a table together, you know? Bellingham, Vitinha, Pedri.
For sure.
Rodri, and you're factoring in the past 3-4 years or whatever.
And there was a time, I don't remember actually stating that, but I have no problem in revisiting that and you know, doubling down on the fact that Bellingham was at that point in time the best football player in the world, because similar to the way that, for example, Barca as a whole, or let's say the explosion of a Lamine Yamal has taken the footballing world by storm, Bellingham did exactly that when he first started for Real Madrid. And I feel like that impact lasted so long. You know, I think because of the way that he composes himself, aura, if you will, Pedri is grossly being undervalued and overlooked in these debates. When I kind of like look around,
no, he's not being overlooked, bro. Come on, everybody.
I feel like most people would
side
side
on
on
machine.
No, I feel like definitely most people would side with at the moment picking Bellingham over Pedri, and because precisely for those reasons, the bigger, faster, stronger argument seems to weigh very heavily when it comes to people picking as, you know, their favorite, their best midfielder at the moment, kind of forgetting everything that Pedri brings to the table, and kind of forgetting as well that it's not all about physicality, strength, and quickness. You know, those are certainly important, but when you compare the head-to-head and stat-to-stat, that's where the end result doesn't, you know, at least in the stats that I've been finding, Kiyan, Pedri comes out on top. And, you know, you can call them false or not, but, you know, these are from data MB, data MB.football. I don't make the stats. I simply list them off and find them and list them off. So again, they show that Pedri are since last season has been the number one in all of those categories. Something that isn't really very much appreciated or at least recognized, I feel, by people. And I'm looking forward to it as well, that, Bellingham coming back and having this debate at the end of the season, because, it's good for us. It's good for football. It's good for to have these kind of debates. And you saying last year it favored Pedri, like the whole system and everything. But you look at Luis de la Fuente, for example, where Pedri plays a little bit more in an advanced role. Flick managed to bring him a little bit deeper. He is more involved with the build-up play, more involved in ball progression, in creating as well, and not shy for trying a shot on goal as well. I think that brings out more in Pedri, as opposed to more of, like, let's say, that the false 10 role that Luis de la Fuente had him play as at the beginning. I also think that now that he has left injuries behind him, we'll be able to see him more heavily, his impact more, or see him being more impactful within the Spanish national side, because obviously during the championship run in the Euros, he left injured, and he had a fantastic Fabian Ruiz as a backup or take over from him. It'll be interesting to see now who Luis de la Fuente will take between Fabian Ruiz and a healthy Pedri, who will be playing alongside Zubimendi. I think, it will continue to be Pedri, and I would love to see how he would conduct this Spanish national side to hopefully a World Cup trophy come 2026 World Cup in the US, Canada, and Mexico. But, I guess what I'm trying to say is that his impact is far greater than on just the Barca that suits his system. I think we got to give the man more credit and attribute more of a footballing IQ and greatness when it comes to what he can bring to a team. I don't think it's like a one-man team sort of player.
I mean, I'm shocked that you think people aren't giving him the credit. I mean, I see a ton of credit given to Pedri everywhere that I look, but
credit, yeah, but I feel like sort of, in lead up to this debate, I was going over some of the other forums, more Anglo-Saxon, if you will, like American English forums and debate shows and whatnot, and they were almost all putting Bellingham rather ahead of Pedri.
Well, that's for good reason, but I don't think it's it's an insult to Pedri. So when you mentioned the bigger, faster, stronger thing and how Pedri, football is not all about that, I think, funny enough, I think that actually works against Jude, because I think the problem with Jude and people's perception of him is that he's so good at everything that they don't really understand how to categorize him. Like, okay, he can score, that means he's not a midfielder. Okay, he's tall and he's athletic. Okay, that means he's not graceful and elegant. I think people just start to perceive him differently. The reality is he's just great at everything. I just wanted to be clear, just so for transparency's sake, people don't think I'm making up my numbers. I'm going to put them on the screen. Oh, this is a formatting nightmare. Hold on, let me fix this. Okay, hold on. I got to fix the format really quickly. Why does it do it this way? Okay, I'm going to share my screen instead, actually. That would be way better. Hold on. This is getting cut off. Okay, this is Pedri. Last 365 days. Per 90. Assists per 90, 0.16. The goals, we already know he's not a great goal scorer, but he's a good enough goal scorer. Then you see his successful take-ons, 1.22. And what was the other one we were looking at? I think those were the main ones, right? As you can see, like, this is a great player. Like, there's no debating it. There's no sane person would argue against the fact that he's a great player. He's a great player. We already know that. So take note of these. 1.16 assists per 90.
Mhm.
1.22. Successful take-ons. Oh, the touches, 1.359, which actually puts him at the 59th percentile among midfielders, which actually is a bit of a surprising stat. This is Jude Bellingham, a green machine. Assists, 0.28 per 90. Successful take-ons, 1.68. Touches, 3.64.
Mm.
Those are the numbers I were looking at. And I think, and this is comparing him to midfielders, by the way, obviously not versus attacking midfielders, which is a way you can categorize him. So those were the numbers I was looking at. And my conclusion to this is, and you can agree or disagree, my conclusion is that I think these are all great players. If I had to take one, I'm taking Bellingham. I wouldn't think twice about it. And it's because he can do everything at an elite level. And people don't really realize it because they see him score. They categorize him as a scorer. They see him as an athletic freak. They don't classify him as a controller. The reality is he can do everything. And I can't wait for him to come back.
Well, let's see. Let's see, my friend. I would love to know from all of those watching in the comments section, who would you guys take? A Jude Bellingham?
If you're a Barca fan, drop Pedri in the chat. If you're a Real Madrid fan, drop Bellingham in the chat. Where's the Inter Milan guy? He can settle this. The Inter Milan fan, who was, by the way, real. He wasn't making it up. He tweeted us on Churros too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Did he? Or did he? I mean, what I wanted to say was, did anybody? I don't know, like bring up or any conclusive stats that maybe would have swayed you. Like, what if I would have compared? Now, I know that obviously both of us are very heavily biased. If we would talk past midfielding greats, Kroos, Modric, Xavi, Iniesta, you know, you're going to take your boys, I'm going to take mine. What would sway, besides the stats that I read out from the good folks of Data MB Football, what would sway your opinion, I suppose?
What would sway my opinion?
Yeah.
I mean, if Pedri was better than Bellingham, that would sway my opinion.
No, but like,
I don't need a stat
for
for
example,
that.
there was somebody that tweeted out saying that Ceballos is better than Pedri. You know, I don't know if you
based on some
go
stats.
So far,
based on some stats, he is. Yeah.
Go so far to say that. You know, is it purely stat based? Is your affinity?
No, of course not.
Your loyalty down to, you know, the shirt that the player wears?
No, of course
not.
not.
I can go so far to say that I would, you know, if Bellingham would be wearing a Barca shirt, then maybe my goggles would see the player in a different vision. I would go, you know, I'm standing alongside of you to say that if I have the luxury, if I'm a manager and I would have to pick one player, I'm picking Pedri over Jude Bellingham. But again, I'm not shy in admitting perhaps that my bias here is at play, given the fact that these statistics that you're pointing out could be, you know, I don't say could be factual, probably are factual, but me relying on my own stats as well, I think it makes the decision very hard as to say who is definitively better. And I don't know, like, what would it take for you, I guess, to sway your opinion? Is it merely stat based, or is there loyalty?
No, I mean, of course, it's not just stat based. I think some of the greatest players of all time, their stats are not as, you know, as sexy as some players who are inferior to them. I think if, like, you, for example, you look at, like, I'm kind of worried about it actually. Like, you know, 50 years from now, you know, people are gonna look back on Luka Modric's stats and be like, "Hey, this guy was overrated." Like, like you can't, like, that's not how it works. Like, Zidane in some ways is like that. Zidane, if you like go look at his goals and assists, people will be like, "Whoa, what's the hype about this guy?" It's not all just stats. A lot of this is eye test. A lot of this is how their ability to handle pressure in big moments. A lot of this is what they've achieved in big moments, like finals, like knockout games, in big games. Which Bellingham, even though he's, you know, young as hell. He's already achieved so much in those situations. I think it's the ability. I, I like the thing is that you're asking me what it would take for me to change my opinion. Like, this is a really kind of strange question to ask, because if Pedri was better than Jude, I would just say he's better than Jude. I wouldn't need something to sway it. If I saw, like, put it this way, both Pedri and Jude Bellingham are really great players. They do a lot of the same things at an elite level, but Jude can just do more, both defensively and from a scoring perspective, and does everything in the middle as well. And I think that's probably the differentiator with him, is that.
But when you say that, see, I take issue with that based on the fact that I just listed out a whole array of statistics where Pedri is ranking number one.
But
so when you say that he does more defensively and more offensively, I'm like, well, the statistics show me that is not the case.
But I think the issue is that you're looking at the 3 games this season.
No, this is last season, my friend.
Well, this is why This is why I literally showed you my screen at what I was looking at. Jude has more assists, he has more touches, and more successful take-ons, which are the 3 big ones that you put Pedri over Jude, which is not being backed up.
Do I need to show you?
I'd love to see it. Yeah, please show me.
Let me pass it.
Please show me. Okay. Okay, hold on. I'm going to share my screen. Diego sent it to me through DM. All right.
So hold on. There's an added tweet that should be, so that those stats broken down shows that Pedri ranks number 1 in most touches, key passes, expected assists, progressive actions, progressive carries, successful dribbles, successful attacking actions, deep completions, forward passes, progressive passes completed, passes into the penalty box, attempted and completed passes, short passes, long passes attempted and completed, through balls attempted and completed, and most passes into the final third attempted and completed.
Are we looking at the same thing? My man, this literally says the 2025-2026
Okay, sorry.
season.
Then because the link must have updated since then. Sorry.
Okay.
Is there a way can I change that?
I don't know.
Hold on, let me see. I must be able to.
Here, let me type it here. Pedri. Here, 2004-2025.
A ver.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit clumsy to do it right now live because I'm not entirely sure what you want me to do here with this.
Well, I brought up, I brought up basically the tweet that was one of my more successful tweets. I got a grand total of 60 likes last season.
Wow.
Incredible.
That's viral.
Yeah, it went viral big time. Where I managed to, it was in response to your claim on February the 16th, saying that Jude Bellingham is your favorite midfielder at everything because he does everything that any midfielder does, but more.
Yeah.
Basically what you're saying now. So then I retweeted that. It was late April when I said, well, according to these stats here from the good folks of Data MB, it shows that Pedri is the ranks number 1 in all those stats that I just listed off. So we're talking like late, deep last season. I didn't know that the link would automatically update, that I will send it to you. But, again, I don't think that they are a Twitter account with, over 100,000 followers would just make up stats here. And I think that it just gives you a run for your money when you say bold claims like that. Kind of.
Is it really a bold claim, Diego? Is it really a bold claim?
Yeah, I think so. Because I don't think that Jude Bellingham does everything and more and better than Pedri. I genuinely don't.
Okay. I feel like at this point I'll just be repeating myself 55 minutes in to answer that. But we can revisit this. I'm happy to have this conversation again at the end of the year.
Of course, we will. We
Again,
will.
I mean, this is obviously as you put it, an advantageous time for Pedri with regards to this current debate, given that Jude Bellingham is, not playing football right now. We do have a few super chats.
Mm.
Pranav Jadhav says, when is Gavi heading to Getafe? Is that happening? Is it a
No,
joke?
I think our dear friend Pranav is
What's
having
going on with his health?
not entirely sure at the moment. He's kind of he will not undergo surgery, so I don't know if that is good or not. But he's with the famous molestias, so I don't think, for the moment at least, that Flick will be able to use a fully healthy Gavi. And Frankie de Jong, for that matter, he has also had to leave the Dutch national side.
They decided against the surgery, right? That's what I had read about Gavi.
Exactly, that's what I said. Yeah.
Yeshai Thaya says, "Did you see the push? Do you think this Clasico will be more spicy?" Is this in reference to the Lamine Yamal Goulet push?
Well, it was the Guller pushing Lamine Yamal. I love how the press here said, "Oh, pushes between Gavi or Lamine Yamal and Guller." It was Guller pushing Lamine Yamal, and whether it will spicy up the Clásico. By the way, there was more footage of Guller trying to literally trying to punch Lamine Yamal as he whizzed by him and dribbled the ball past him. I don't know. I guess Guller's having some frustrating times at the moment. Whether he will release those during the Clásico remains to be seen. I think it will be a spicy one. I do actually think so. Yeah, I think it's a new season, and Madrid that has got a point to prove, as well as Barça, of course, as this season has gotten off to a slow start for the Catalans and underwhelming. So yeah, I can't wait for it, man. We're September. October is just around the corner.
Seemed like a pretty standard situation in football for me. I don't know if it's going to make the Clásico any more or less spicy.
Yeah. But
Mr. Sushi 22 says, Diego, you're doing tricks on it. Ceballos is better.
Forget about it. Sushi.
Mr. Sushi also says, legit, what does Gavi do? All I see are fouls.
Well, take off your Madrid goggles, my friend.
Mr. Sushi is an Inter Milan fan, I think.
I don't think so.
Neutral.
Pretty sure he's...
Nishlesh Patel says, why wasn't Diego's link looked into more for the 2024-2025 season and just closed away? You were about to show up.
I will try to pull it up, okay? I mean, I need to go through the entire feed of...
Send me why don't you send the tweet also of the Barca fanatic who made up the stats?
I will do that now.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of I love these debates personally. I enjoy doing them. I could do this any day. This actually, like, debates like this and even historical debates are far more interesting to me than even like just analyzing some of these games.
Here we go. I got an even better one for that ass.
All right.
Keep that one. Jude Bellingham, Real Madrid, Pedri, Barça. Comparing the players. Jules, 38.1, 94 for Pedri. Possession 1, 47.5. 37.1.
Hold on, let me share it.
Bing, bang, boom. Big fat dick slapping across the face. So minutes, 2,713 minutes to 3,136. Pedri's on the bottom, just for clarity purposes. Progressive passes, 94.1. 50.5. Key passes, 95. 88.5. Forward passes percentage, 52 to 83. Bellingham wins on that one. forward passes. Sorry, there was forward passes percentage, not forward passes, 92.7, 68.3. Progressive carries, 97.5, 90.6. Possession 1, 37.1, 47.5. And duels percentage, 94 to 38.1.
Okay. How much of this do you think is explained by the systems of the respective teams last season?
I mean, I don't know if this is only club football. I would imagine so, right? I mean, they do specify here Madrid and Barca behind the players' names. I don't know if it accounts for international games as well. I would have to assume it's just down to league football, club football, I should say. I mean, sure, but imagine. I mean, isn't that a bit advantageous as well? Like if our sample would have been the prior season, so not last season, the season before that, where clearly Madrid had a better season than Barca, and it was Xavi's last season, and I would have said, well, Xavi's system didn't fit Pedri.
Right. I was actually curious because I went and I checked to see if this site Data MB has anything for the season prior, and they don't. Their database literally starts 2024, so they don't go. What I did think was interesting because I was just kind of playing around because you brushed off the idea that Fede Valverde would even be in this conversation. And if you look at Fede Valverde, he's pretty much matching the output of Pedri in those situations too. And again, I think a lot of this last season was, to me, like Pedri clearly won that, what do you want to call it, debate or discussion, in part because like Barca were just functioning way better than Real Madrid, and Bellingham was playing through pain for the entire season. He was playing through tactical chaos. There was a lot of demands on him. The attack wasn't functioning. The defense wasn't functioning. And I think it's just going to be a different situation this season. And I'm pretty confident about that.
Sorry, I'm still scrolling to see if I could find that tweet. I mean, still in August. Look, you're gonna have to take my word
for argument's sake. Do you want to throw Dani Ceballos in here?
Go on.
Let me just clean this up. Dani Ceballos versus Pedri. Pretty much neck and neck, and apart from key passes last season.
And minutes. So the sample size, I think, matters as well.
Well, I mean, if you're going based on minutes, Bellingham played.
No, I'm saying like Ceballos could play like 3 games and have decent stats. You compare that to somebody that is literally playing all the minutes all the time. Like that is more an accurate comparison.
I mean, Bellingham played 400 less minutes than Pedri last season as well.
Right.
But yeah. All right, man.
Mind you, by the way, as you say that, I just came across Fede Valverde Pedri comparison here. Fede Valverde, 214 games for Real Madrid, 20 goals. Pedri for Barca, 141 games, 21 goals. You know those kinds of tweets and stats. But listen, I think we can all agree these are great midfielders. It'd be interesting to see Frenkie de Jong in the mix as well. And may the best midfielder win, my friend. I'm excited for this season. Excited for Jude to come back as well to see if this debate will still hold true come end of the season, or there'll be one standout, clear, better player. We shall see. Do you think, my final question, either of these players will ever win the Balón de Oro?
I think between the two, Bellingham would have a better chance. In part because Ballon d'Or often tends to reward goals. But I do think Pedri has a better chance of winning the World Cup than Bellingham does.
I was going to say, if you factor in international tournaments, not that England doesn't have a chance, obviously.
I mean, again, I just think Spain are a better coach, and I think that is going to make a huge difference. One last super chat from Nishlesh, who says Jude was worse than Pedri last year because Real Madrid were worse than Barca last year. Diego can have this one.
Well, I'll take it if seeing Nishlesh is a Madridista.
There you go. Diego, I got to run here.
Okay,
do you have
buddy.
anything else? We should shout out that we're doing a ton of bonus content over on patreon.com/Churros y Tácticas. And last Friday, if you haven't listened to it already, Diego actually revealed what the ego problems are at Barcelona, the inside information and his opinion on it. And that's it's some pretty juicy stuff in there. Diego said some stuff about his favorite players that you would never hear him say on the free podcast. Go to patreon.com/Churros y Tácticas. We're also doing a show on Thursday and once a week moving forward over there for members. All right. Diego, thanks, man. Appreciate the debate. It was fun. I think there's probably two more of this exact debate to be had, one at the end of the season and probably one after the World Cup. I think we can revisit this and see how both of these guys are doing. And of course, respect to Vitinha and all those other guys who are obviously in the conversation to have the, I mean, actually, I think probably the most fair thing to say out of the three of them, Vitinha has to be ranked higher because, he was the best midfielder in the world last season. It's hard to argue against it. They won the treble and he won the Nations League.
Isn't the Balón de Oro like in a couple of weeks, by the way?
October, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like a month, I guess.
Yeah, but normally they're like, newspapers, especially during international breaks, they're full of it. Yes, my friend. Well, like Kiyan said, please do join us on patreon.com/Churros y Tácticas. We have some new patrons and we are welcoming you with open arms. As long as you're all respectful. I saw somebody that has recently joined kind of lacking in the respect department, but that's okay. We'll have a word properly privately about that.
Okay.
And yes. But other than that, my friend, this was fun. I do hope that we can continue to have this debate, or I hope not. I look forward rather. And I would love to have maybe a Balde against Carreras debate as well before the World Cup, because I think a lot can be said about that as well. Who will get the left back position? Will it be Alejandro Balde or will it be Carreras? Right now, Carreras definitely in the front seat.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. We got a lot. We got endless debates coming up. All right. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Appreciate your time. Thanks, Diego. We'll chat soon. Peace out.
Peace.